I quit my job because of stress. I walked away from a six-figure income because I was stressed out. I could no longer do the job and I needed peace. So I left my job in July 2023, almost exactly 6 years after starting with the company. I started with the company July 2016. So I was just about 3 weeks shy of my anniversary. But this starts way back. This started back when I was 13 years old working. My first job was a babysitter. So from Jump Street, I was an entrepreneur. I was making 16 bucks a week being a babysitter. So naturally, I wasn't meant to work for anybody else, but life happens. So anyway, leading up to how I quit my job and why, um, the stress. So in 2002 is when I first started working my corporate America career. I started working for corporate America in 2002. I was kind of thrust into it overnight, really. My ex husband and I separated, and the same night I started working a full time job is the night that he left, which is fine, but I had three children. The oldest one was 12 at the time. I think I was going to be 30 that year. No, I was going to be 29 that year. Um, so I had three children, all under the age of, they weren't teenagers. And I had never worked a real full time job. I worked here and there, but he was the primary breadwinner. So when I needed to quit a job, I would just quit. So now, being a single mom, I had no choice but to work. Thank God I was able to find a job. Actually, I started the job, I was offered the position, told him about the position, and he left that night, which again is fine. That was years ago. But what it did for me is it showed me that I had no choice but to work. I got this job that I was working through a temp agency in Orlando, Florida, and it was an office position. They asked me if I knew Word and Excel, Microsoft Word and Excel, and I didn't at the time, but they took a chance and they hired me. I was working with the company to build out the state of Florida 911 and emergency communications network. So when I went in there, I worked with a lot of Caucasian men, and they helped me so much learn the ropes. So I worked there for a little while, and then I started moving around, working my way up the corporate ladder. I worked for various Fortune 500 companies, and in 2010, one of my girlfriends that went to high school with me, we kept saying we're going to move to Atlanta when our kids graduate high school because we have children that are the same age. Mind you, I had only been to the Atlanta area twice in my life. I went once in 1999 for my cousin's wedding, and then again in 2000, I think, for to visit some family of my ex-husband. So those were the only two times I had been in the metro area. So, but I wanted to move to Atlanta. Fast forward to 2016, the company I was working for, I started to have some problems there, and decided it was best for me to leave. So I started job a job hunt in the Orlando area, and I was willing to take less money just to get away from that job. Didn't want to cause any friction, didn't want to be upset, so to resolve the issue, it's time for me to move on. So I'm job hunting, job hunting. I get a phone call one day from a company, and they were telling me about a position. The lady just started talking, telling me about a position. Then she mentioned the position was in Atlanta. So I'm just going along with her, like, yeah, okay. Um, 5 interviews later, I was offered the position and packed up and left Florida. But ironically, I had been on the job. I was able to put my 2 weeks notice in with that particular job that I left in Florida, and was able to walk away with 3 weeks paid vacation because I had just hit my 6 year. So that was a plus. So moved to Atlanta and start working for this new job. This was my first salary job. Let me back up a little bit. When I first started working in corporate America in 2002, I was making $13 an hour. Then I started moving around, just going up, 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 seeing how much I could make. I had three children. I like nice things. I never depended on the system for anything. So I had to maintain my lifestyle. So, I worked my way up, but I also didn't want a job hop. So I stayed as long as I could. But when it was time for me to leave a job, I had no problem leaving. So fast forward to 2016 when I pack up, leave Orlando, and move to the Atlanta area. Working for the company, I was an associate project manager, meaning I was in house doing paperwork, etc., for general contractors. Uh, those being an APM was easy, but after I've been there a few years, I've felt like I'm training new hirees coming in. I'm taking on more responsibility, but not getting promoted. So I saw that there was some racism going on regarding promotions. They finally did promote me, but things were definitely strained on that particular account. So to fix that, because I didn't want to leave the company, in 2022, I asked to be transferred to a different account. So this different account I moved to put me out in the field as a project manager. I would go to different stores. Retail. There was the retail store was our client. I would travel around the country several times a week, surveying stores, basically looking at any improvements, minor improvements that needed to happen at the store to make it, you know, okay. Um, by the way, I'm Melinda, and welcome to my channel. If you like what you're hearing so far, click that like and subscribe button for more content. Anyway, um, so being the project manager in the field was a lot more intense, but I was able to get more experience. And being a black woman in the construction field is not that common. So, I took pride in my job, but it started to wear on me. Working every week, flying out every week to different stores and just all over the place. I would be at some locations as early as 5:30. What I would do is I would survey the stores. I would count ceiling tiles. I would, make sure the floor was okay. If the floor wasn't okay, we just basically do reports for this particular client of what needed to happen in the store. Minor paint refresh. Once I would send the report back to the client, then the general contractor would go out and do the work, and I would go back to punch the store, to do a punch list on the store to make sure that all the work was completed. Sometimes I would be in the stores, 6 a.m. Doing the punch, and this could be anywhere in the country, any little town, who knows. And I'm not a person who loves to drive in the dark, but I had to get my paycheck, so I had to figure it out. So that part was stressing me out, but I had a mortgage to pay. So I did this for a little over a year. I sometimes would fly out Tuesday, come back home Friday, or fly out Wednesday, come home Thursday, and still have a lot of work to do once I got back home, uploading pictures and this and that. So I noticed towards the end in 2023, maybe May, April or May, I started to get depressed. A couple times I get to the airport and I just wasn't feeling it. I vividly recall one day getting to the airport and just crying. I called my daughter and I'm like, I don't want to go. Ironically, the flight was first pushed and then the flight was canceled, and I went on back home. Um, so that was great for me. But 5th of July 2023 rolls around. My daughter and her family's living with me temporarily because they were getting ready to PC to North Carolina. And I told my granddaughter, I said, I don't want to go to work today. I had just had it at that point. I didn't want to go. I was stressed, depressed. I wasn't myself. She said to me, ma'am, don't go. And that was it. I called my supervisor up and told her I was not going to make that flight and I wasn't coming back. And I think she thought that I needed a few days to think about it because her response was kind of like, she'd find somebody to cover my stores for me, just get back with her or whatever. But no, that was it. When I told her I was not coming back, I felt so relieved. Mind you, I had a mortgage, I had a car payment, I had bills. You know, it was only me and my oldest daughter living in the house, but I paid all the bills. So I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have any money saved, but I quit my job. I felt such relief. After that, you know, life truly, truly changed for me, and I haven't looked back. Well, no, actually, I did. I did. I stayed out of corporate America for about 9 months, and then I attempted to go back, making. I went back to doing the same type of work. It would have caused me to travel. It was good money. It wasn't six figures, but it was very close to it. But I worked there for maybe 6 weeks or so, and I couldn't do it. Again, I cried. I was crying. I had to call my supervisor and tell him I couldn't do it. So after that, I took a couple months off just to get my head back right, and I did find another job. not as intense. So it was basically took some steps back. I'm now a project coordinator, which is very similar to a APM, associate project manager. But the money isn't, it's not six figures, but it pays the bills. I love my job. Um, it's a cool place to work for. So that's why I quit my job, just due to stress. I felt that I wanted to live. I quit my job at 49, but I was about to turn 50 in a few months, and I didn't want to go into 50 being stressed. I've been working since I was 13, and I wanted something easier, but you know, I couldn't do it. I put myself through school, and I wanted my kids to be proud. So when I quit my job, I knew that my mission was accomplished. I had made them proud. They had seen how hard I had worked to raise them, and things that I was able to successfully do because I had gone and gotten my degree. I was able to have me a brand new four-bedroom house built. But all of that, I showed my kids what I needed to do, and that was it. I no longer needed that. I needed peace. I needed happiness. So when I tell you I was fulfilled, my destiny was fulfilled. That's why I walked away from six figures. So money isn't everything. It definitely helps, but it's not everything. So stick around. I have a lot more stories for you. I was a teen mom, and I want to, explain some stuff to y'all and let you know how that worked out, and what life is all about now, what happened to me after I quit that job. But life is good. I look forward to spending more time with y'all. As you can tell, I said yesterday I was going to make this video today, and right after I said that, I realized I needed to wash my hair. So I banded my hair down, and then I said to myself, well, now you're going to have to make the video the following day. I said, you know what? I'm going to keep it real with these people. I'm going to wash my hair, and I'm going to make my video with my hair banded. And, this is me. This is me, and this is what I do. So I look forward to getting to talk to y'all more. Again, hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll talk to you later. Bye, y'all.